Budget hearing. Before we get started, I'd like to read a little, I'm sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The purposes of this hearing is to discuss the budget being recommended by the Plymouth Select Board and the Advisory Budget Committee for the fiscal year 2018-2019. Only items concerning the budget will be considered and discussed tonight. Discussions of personnel budgeted positions are found within each department accordingly. This board will not tolerate any personal discussion related to individuals within each department. The tax rate set by the state is $29.56 per thousand for the 2017 tax year. The town is $11.06 per thousand. School, $14.10 per thousand. County, $1.96 per thousand. And the state school is $2.44 per thousand. In summary, the town is 38% of the tax rate, and the combination of the school, state, and county is 62% of the tax rate. The reason for the tax increase was not a budgeted appropriation over expenditure, and it is important to note that each department did what they could to turn back money from their budget. The tax increase is completely attributed to a shortfall in revenues from both the town and the school district. The shortfalls in revenue are attributed to unanticipated abatements to include mid-state health, grants that were budgeted from the state that were taken away after the budget was set, and the lack of an offset from fund balance. Additionally, the state returned $126,000 in money to be used for the highway department, but had strings attached that would not allow the town to use this for any present budgeted line item and could not be included in our estimated revenue for the year. The Select Board, Town Administrator, and Department Managers have worked hard to present a level-funded budget for town approval. We draw your attention to the last page of this budget, which will show you the gross budget, anticipated revenues, and net appropriations. If you look at the last page, column A, you'll see adopted budget 2017-2018, $8,438,522. Selectmen's budget 2018-2019, $8,435, $8,435,833 for a decrease of $2,689. If we go to the next to the last item, amount of estimated revenues and credits. For 2017-18, $3,681,771. 2018 and 19, $3,691,643. Estimated amount of taxes to be raised, 2017-2018, $4,756,751. 2018-2019, $4,744,190. So if you look at these items, they're so close, and like I say, the department heads, the select board, the budget committee has done everything they can. Remember, this budget is for the year ending June 2019, and the town has set the anticipated revenues according to what we believe to be an acceptable offset as required by New Hampshire DRA when we set our tax rate. Every town must anticipate their revenues. Questions will be taken and answered by various members of the town management, selectmen, or budget committee members. As we review this budget, please keep in mind that 55% of Plymouth's property is non-taxable. 55%. Val, would you like to say anything on behalf of the Budget Committee?
Just that we have met as a committee with every department head. We've met repeatedly with the select board, and we are confident that every effort has been made to make a budget that the town can live with and that does continue to provide the services to the townspeople that they've come to expect.
Marcia?
The committee would also like to commend all the department heads for their tremendously hard work in creating a level-funded budget, especially based upon some of the increases that they were forced to absorb, such as particularly insurance. So we were very impressed with each of the departments as we went through their thoughtful way of approaching the budget and the really commendable way that they are handling a difficult situation and providing us with services, as Val said, that we're used to receiving.
Ted?
Nothing more that I can really add. Thank you.
Okay. All right, if we are ready, get your budget. Do we have any questions on page 1?
I just have a question. I just want to make sure I got this right. 55% of Plymouth properties is nonprofit?
It's non-taxable. It includes the college.
Okay,
It
non-taxable.
includes
All right.
Mid-State, a lot of other non-profit entities.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Do you have any questions on page 1? Seeing none. Any questions on page 2? Seeing no response. Do we have anything on page 3? Seeing no response, do we have anything on page? Seeing no response, page 5. Any questions on page 6? Any questions on page 7? Any questions on page 8? Questions on page 9? Any questions on page 10? Questions on page 11? Any questions on page 12? Any questions on page 13? Any questions on page 14? Questions on page 15? Any questions on page 16? Any questions on page 17? Any questions on page 18? Finally, but not least, page 19. Seeing none, we have reviewed the budget. Bill?
We are going over this line item by line item to be sure it will be too lengthy to do so. But I'd like to make a couple of overall comments with regard to the budget. Last year's, or the current budget, was a 27% increase over the year previous. That effectively devalued property in the town of Plymouth, particularly residential housing and commercial businesses. The only tax-paying entity in the town that could swallow that is that of the off-site rental units that we have in town, where they can roll this into the rental costs of their student population. That's a serious matter for residents of the community, not only from the standpoint of their property devaluation, but the cost of taxes on the whole that they are being levied collectively by the municipality, the school board, state, etc. I don't see anything in this budget that weighs against these negative factors and is aimed at reducing the tax rate for this coming fiscal year that we're discussing. I think that that is a gross oversight on the part of the Budget Committee and particularly on the part of the Board of Selectmen. We, when making inquiry into the increase that we experienced, it was generally laid at the feet of Gadsby and DRA, that the town was totally out of control of that budget. If that's the case, there seems to be a problem somewhere, either among your board or with the administrator, as to what steps are necessary to address the changes that may have come about through Gadsby, which we knew was forthcoming way back in the early 2000s, and DRA, to the extent that there's been change made there. Therefore, if it does lie at the feet of DRA, I would urge this board to invite into this room to discuss with you the ramifications that those changes have had on the taxpayers of this community. I don't think it's something that we can accept however it plays out, but they need to understand what this community in particular faces for all the limitations in tax revenue that we face that you enumerated in light of the tax exempt properties that we accommodate. It's interesting that I read here recently where the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration is now being headed up by Lindsay Stepp, who attended the university, worked for the university, worked in the private sector before going to work for DRA, and she's now the commissioner with DRA. I think it would be informative to you as a board and some of us in the public to understand why they have made the changes that they may have made and how to offset that impact in lowering taxes for this town in particular. So suffice it to say, I don't see any ingredients here that will affect change. And if that's the case, I think it's a disservice to the residents of this town at large. I'm speaking for the town as well as myself.
Okay.
Can
Go ahead, Ann.
I would just like to make a couple corrections to your statement. First of all, the budget did not go up 27%. The budget went up 1% over the last couple of years. You said let me finish. The tax rate may have gone up a significant amount. You said the budget. Make sure that people understand the difference between the two.
I stand corrected.
You also did not bring up the fact that the revenues did not come in as we originally had predicted. And I have a few examples here of why the revenues did not come in. However, it did not go up 27%. That is a false statement.
So I might want to add something. From what I understand, it's coming from the top of the state. The governor is implementing their policies that are holding back funds that normally would go to the towns and keeping it into their own budget. That's how a simple way that I've understood it. One other thing, the chairman mentioned the lack of revenues that we have and the limiting factors that there's a lot of untaxable property in Plymouth, and we all know we're all living in this community together, and we see communities all around us that either have a lake where they can increase the taxes on the second home market, which Plymouth really does not have. And it puts all of us in the same boat together. We still have a large population, single, a lot of people that make this their primary home. They're living here. There's not a lot of other housing, as I mentioned. And so we need to make sure we have services for everybody. And unfortunately, we don't have some of the businesses that we would have liked to have seen on Tenny Mountain Highway, which adds to the potential that we do have. And I think that's one thing the board is trying to do, is to bring in businesses that would help alleviate some of the tax issues for the townspeople.
Do you have any comments, Bill?
Well, I just want to reiterate what Mike was just saying. You know, it definitely is a revenue issue, and if the state were to uphold their obligation to cities and towns, and as well as the school system, you know, we wouldn't be in the predicament that we are now. And you know, it's nice that the government's budget is relatively okay. The rainy day funds fully funded again, and you know, so I think the next thing is for the legislature to step up and put the revenues back into a shared revenue with the municipalities. But that's basically what's kind of holding us back.
Paul?
I guess I have a question, and nobody's really answered it to my satisfaction anyway. We had a contract with the university up there to pay us so much a year based on our providing fire protection, police protection, and all the other protections that we provide for the university. And it was kind of based on a per pupil basis. At least that was the thinking of the board that got the contract anyway. Now, that contract had expired somewhere in 2009. And question number one is, has there been a new contract with the college, number one? Has there been an increase in that contract? And if so, what amount of an increase? Because we're talking about property in this town that we can't tax. Well, there's an entity that continues to grow. We have a contract based on that. And I've never heard anybody tell me where they're getting any extra money from the college. That's really my concern. Obviously, they've got somewhere around 42 or 4,300 students up there now. Well, when the contract was signed, it was 3,600. It's another 400 or 500 students. So my concern is, have we negotiated another contract with them, and to what amount is the increase?
Paul?
The contract signed back then, when you were selecting, was 310. The new contract is 600.
That doesn't tell me anything, because there's a 28% cost of living escalator in that contract. I asked if there was another one negotiated, and above the 28%.
I just told you there was, and it's 600,000.
You said what?
600,000.
That's what we're getting now.
Yes.
Okay, so that tells me that part of it. But
And-
what's the rest of it?
And we get, there's a lot of detail pay that was included in the previous contract.
And we now get
that
dispatch.
We're now able to bill.
And we now bill for dispatch. All things that we didn't do in the last contract.
Bill?
I want to come back to my incorrect statement that I made earlier and have been corrected on. The number of residents that we have in this community have not significantly grown over the last 20 years. As a residential community, we still number just a little over 3,000, if my memory serves me correctly. That hasn't changed. And these are the residents that are bearing the burden of this budget, this current fiscal year, the 27% increase in the taxes that they're paying on average. And that is a burden that they shouldn't be saddled with. I don't know what the dilemma is to get them out of that situation. I don't have a solution for you, but you should be working as hard as you can for those few residents that we have, carrying a service-centered community that draws a lot of people into this community for what commercial and other services that we have available for them to take advantage of.
And Bill, I assure you, everyone sitting here at this table and every department head is paying the same tax increase. You know, I got my bill. You know, I have to pay it. We are looking at ways to save money. We're looking at grant money that's available. We're doing everything within our power. What we need to do, again, it's a revenue situation where you have shared revenue. And 1 year, $680,000 is cut out of your budget. Now that's $680,000. You've already budgeted. It doesn't happen. That comes out of our reserve funds. And this is what we're dealing with. And we're working, we're trying to, the planning board, all the other departments in the town are looking for ways that we can save the town money, that we can do a better job. Again, we're in a regional situation, and a lot of the nonprofits are, you know, they're including, you know, what they're doing for the town and everything. They're including people from Wentworth, Warren, Bristol, all these other different places. And so we are concerned. I mean, we're taxpayers ourselves. And I didn't like the $800. I got a lot of friends that came over to me and, you took my kids' Christmas money, and it wasn't fun, and it wasn't anything that any one of us in here took lightly. Because we're not here to take care of ourselves. We're here to take care of the people. And this is what we're trying to do. And we need everybody working together, to present the best part of this town. If we had 3 or 4 of the projects that were slated for revenue in this town, we would be looking at about $1.2 million in revenue. This would have never happened. But we had situations that came about, whether it was a recession or whatever it was, that came about and made this happen. And we are working. I mean, the department heads, with the increases we had in insurance, again, with the police and fire, 90% of their expenses are related and covered by the union. So we have some, limitations, some areas that we can't touch. But every department head and every person in this town hall has done their level best to try to find a way. And we're constantly looking at ways we can do things better. Where our staffing is, what can we do? And, again, I want to assure the people of this town that, we're here late at night. We're here many, many meetings. The budget committee, the school board, I mean, they did not want to present that $2 increase. And I know it was tough on everyone here, but we're working to solve the problem. We feel like, we possibly have some things that are going to be coming down the pike. We have the revaluation of the entire town coming up. And so, we just have to see where it goes from there. Any of the other selectmen have any comments?
Well, I feel that we've been making a lot of decisions for long-term planning, and the future looks good. We're anticipating that we're going to have commercial development picking up in this town, and real estate market has turned around. We were depressed for a number of years, and people, their evaluations went down, and that cut into our ability to assess property. And now the values are coming back.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Okay.
If I may.
Mm-hmm.
The realities are that the whole funding issue at the state level and at the community level are not unique.
Right.
The
Everybody.
state is getting less money from the Fed.
Mm-hmm.
In turn, we're getting less money from the
Mhm.
state.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, we should be looking at how to take less money out of our taxpayers' pockets in order to keep living the way we have been living.
And
So you've got to anticipate the whole chain of events.
this
And better plan around revenue as it relates to what we can afford and how we provide the services that are needed, not necessarily wanted.
okay. Bill.
Well, just get back to at least, a possible digging out of the hole we might be in, is economic development. And I notice there's two members of the planning board.
Speak up, please.
There are 2 members of the planning board in the audience right now. I'm the select board rep on the planning board, and we're looking at several projects that just came in to be reviewed. At least they're exploratory. So there's a lot more activity with actual revenue potential projects that are coming forward now. And that seems to be not the singular way of digging us out, but at least from a revenue point of view, that will definitely help.
Mike?
I want to piggyback on what Bill just said. There were, when everybody opened up their tax bill, they got to remember, the town spent a lot of money defending our position when a big box store was coming into Tenny Mountain Highway. And a lot of businesses that were thinking of Plymouth and potentially might have come in, lowered our tax bill, saw for 8 years a small group of residents in this town fighting that. And if you're a business owner and you're thinking about going to a town to open up your business, you're looking at Plymouth and that small group of residents that were fighting and causing that applicant to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, as well as the town spending upwards of $100,000 to defend our position. We were doing everything right, but the other side was just running out the clock to push the applicant away from our community. Had that applicant come in and had a few more followed suit onto Tenny Mountain Highway, everybody would have opened up your tax bill, and it probably, the town might have even been able to offset the increase of what the school did. And I think we're extremely lucky that we have Paul Freitas, who is a numbers guru, from everything I saw him do from the town recycling center and all the money that he saved the town. And to see our own chairman, who's been on the budget committee for many years before he was a selectman, we're doing everything we can, and no one wanted to open up that tax bill and see that increase. But you've got to remember, that Tenny Mountain Highway is our ticket. And if we can get businesses in there, it's going to bring in more people, spreading out the shoulders of everyone that's going to help pay the bills for the services that we need. And we're in every time we have a meeting, we're hearing about pressures from communities alongside of us, Meredith and other communities, that want our employees. And we can't sit here and watch our employees go and then not have the services for the taxpayers here. And it's a hard decision. And there's no easy way to just watch those individuals that we've seen become extremely loyal to this town and watch them go away, because we can't match what another town that has many homes on lakes. We're in a tough position here in Plymouth in some respects. But when you see those people that might have made it difficult for an applicant, that's why your tax bill, a portion of it, can be related directly to that.
Brian, do you have any? Ann?
I just have a comment about the 27% tax bill increase. Please remember that increase is not just on the town. That increase is also from the school, it is from the county, and the additional funds that go to the school and the town. All four of those entities combined make your tax rate. So keep that in mind when you look at your 27%.
Paul?
I guess my concern is part of the supposedly increase that we received is on anticipated revenues. We were in court with a couple of these entities, and it could have went either way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't anticipate revenues until you know what they are.
Well,
To a certain
that's
extent.
right.
Yeah.
But again, this is a situation, and I'll use the police department in Thornton right now. They're looking for police officers, paying $4 an hour more than they start here, $10,000 signing bonus. We train these officers learn the town, they come here and they do a great job. And this is things that the police chief is dealing with the fire department in a lot of areas. And so, we have to, when we train an officer and he's got a year or so on the street before he's able to go out and function. And then we have this person taken away. That's about $300,000. When you include his training time, the training, and the overtime for the departments. So we have, working as a select board, we have been able to offset some of this. And the departments have all, I mean, with the insurance, and the insurance was astronomical this year. And these people brought in a level budget that we had last year. And, I mean, you know, I just can't thank them enough, because we did not have to sit here and be the bullies. Everybody stepped up. And we're looking at everything we can do to save the people money. It's a revenue situation, and we're working on it, and we feel very comfortable that in the next couple of years, it's going to be taken care of. But what we have to do, when all of a sudden in a back year, you've got $900,000. And these were very good estimates until we weren't notified that the state wasn't going to give us the shared revenue of $680,000. It was dropped on us, and then how do you make that up? And when you look at the increase, like I say, everybody, Paul goes down to Washington and gets money for this town, grant money. That money used to come straight to this town. Now it goes to the state, and we have to go to the state and ask for it. When Paul has gone down and done this, and I mean, people just do not realize what a fine bunch of people we got working here. Our budget committee, everybody's working together to see what we can save. We're looking at it from every different angle. And I've done this for 55 years of my life, done accounting, reorganizations of company, and we're working on it. Every department head, I assure the people, is doing everything they can to save money for the town. The planning board, everybody else is working on a wonderful community to present to future businesses that can come into the town. And, you know, I just want to say thank you, and I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Do you have any other comments?
Mike, I think what you had to say was true. There's been a faction in this town that did not want to see growth. There's no question about it. And they've caused a lot of people angst in this town, and shame on them. If they didn't like the way things were going, I would have liked to see them leave, to be very honest with you. Because I was on the board when they all started coming. There's no question about it. But
Thank you for your...
You cannot anticipate revenues if they're not coming in. You've got a budget based on what you know is coming in.
Well, again,
You know that. If you've done it as long as you've said,
I have.
then
You
you
don't.
know you cannot go on strictly anticipated revenue. You've got to put a cushion in there to make sure
Exactly,
that you protect the people that you're representing.
Exactly.
Which is the town.
exactly.
And somewhere along the line, $1.3 million disappeared. That's what we had in our reserve account when I left the seat.
Yep,
There's $1.3 million there. That's gone.
Yep.
What do we have in the reserve account now?
I don't,
Well, the state doesn't want
Huh?
us to.
About 100,000,
at 100,000.
That's probably well below the state's minimum.
absolutely.
Yep. So, but again, when the state does not tell you, does not, no,
You can't keep pushing the buck around. Bill's right.
I'm not
The bottom
pushing-
line is, we have to be concerned as citizens what's going on in our town.
Oh.
50%, you're telling us now 50% of the property in this town is tax exempt.
right.
Well, it was 39% a few years ago, so it's been creeping up.
Oh, of course
Those are
it-
things that you guys are sitting on the board know better than the citizens know.
All right, perfect example. And you know, the mid-state situation, we were getting taxes on that. We had a receivable. That receivable, the taxes were assessed for 3 years to the amount about 190,000. And then we had the 70,000 for this year. That's 400,000. And the court came in and said they were nonprofit and forgave every bit. Well, we had a very legal and very binding receivable there that the court forgave, not the town, not anyone in the town. We didn't say, okay, as of day one, we'll pay those taxes, and then today, we're gonna, as of today, we're nonprofit. No, we had to, you asked where some of the reserve went? There's $300,000
Question,
in one
how
deal.
long were you in court with this group?
I don't know, Paul.
Didn't go to court, it was mediation.
Yeah, it was mediation. It
How
was,
long were you in mediation with this group?
what was it,
Since
probably,
2014.
Pardon me?
2014.
So you were in mediation in 2014 for that entire time?
yeah.
So you had a year to know that you could lose?
Well, we,
Excuse me,
Excuse
John.
me, go ahead.
You better serve the finance director explains how that works with
All right.
Gatsby.
go ahead.
So I've got a couple things to explain. I've been making notes. All right, so because they were still considered a taxable entity, they still stay on the books. We
Okay.
don't take them off the books. So when they became a non-taxable entity in that facility, we had to actually abate, including this year, $285,000. That's revenue.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be made up in the tax rate,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then you talked about the MS, when you talk about estimating revenues, when you used to be a selectman, you signed the MS6.
Yep.
On the very bottom of that MS6, you would say to the town, this is what I anticipate we're going to receive for revenue.
That's correct.
It's the same way we do it now.
Yep.
However, we seem to have a much less amount of revenue coming in than what it was at that time. So we don't have the additional money to put against the tax rate, as you said, from the unreserved, that you used to have. We just don't have it because we've actually put it against the rate over the last few years. And it wasn't just the town's rate, it was the school's rate, the county's rate, to hopefully not have your taxes go up. This year, we got in a predicament that we didn't anticipate.
That answers the question right there. You didn't anticipate it, so it happened.
Correct.
Thank you.
Paul?
Out of slyness, we could not have possibly anticipated it.
You couldn't.
There's just no way.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, you know, if every single year you count on the state to give you $680,000, it's always been the amount that you've received from the state, or a certain percentage of, you know, what the town gets from the state. And all of a sudden, at the very 11th hour, the state says, oh, this year you're not going to get it, sorry. There's no way you can anticipate that. There had been no discussion of it previously. It had never been what happened historically. The town's revenues from the state did decrease gradually over time. We lost our share of, you know, the tolls money.
And just to jump in there a second, Val, the 680 happened during your board. It wasn't part of this offset that we didn't have.
Right.
Your board didn't anticipate that being taken away when you were I don't want anybody out there listening to this that we're having audio problems, that the 680 was also part of the 900.
Oh, no.
That goes back to when you started giving warnings, we're losing revenue every year. And your board didn't have a chance to anticipate it.
Right.
The other concern is the state is giving us money, but telling us what we can use it for. One of the things you cannot, the new road funding, the additional funding that we got, they told us we could not use it to offset anything in the budget. You're to find a new project that you never anticipated doing, and that's where you'll spend the money. So they're not only giving you money, but they're telling you what you can do with it if they give it to you.
Where boards in the past were allowed to take that money and put it directly to the offsetting of the tax rate or the budget. That is no longer the case. You have to add it to your budget. If you have an $8 million budget, and the state's going to give you $200,000 back for Joe, we have to have an $8.2 million budget. So we do not gain an offset at all. And try to anticipate that ahead of time. Representative Suzanne Smith and Representative Steve Rand were here the other night showing us 5 other ways that the state is anticipating doing the same thing. The good news is there's not too much left for them to take away from us. We're learning how to do this on our own. by thinking out of the box. I think we carry ourselves very well. And I think it's insulting to think that we don't.
Hey, John.
Neil?
I have a couple of scenarios that I'd like to describe. One is in our highway department. We were having really serious problems with our trucks. There's been a lot of changes, environmental changes in the manufacture of trucks, and the trucks that we were getting were unreliable, and it was getting to be a serious problem. And we switched to, I think we bought Kenworths, and they're very reliable. And these trucks are much more efficient. And just that little thing right there made a big difference. And then Paul found a used draught-type excavator, which is on tires, that we could use for cleaning up ditches and working on culverts. And a lot of people, don't think that is that serious, but really, it's fundamentally very important to the maintenance of our roads. And we were using a backhoe before, and it's labor-intensive and time-consuming, and we just couldn't get the job done. There's just too much work to do with that backhoe. But with this new machine and these better trucks, we're able to do much more efficient maintenance of our roads.
And that credit goes to Joe, not Paul.
Well,
Thank you,
I give
Joe.
credit to Joe for being on top of this. And I think that is just one small way that we have been able to, make a plan to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of our highway department. And then in another area, we all know that the university has been through an extreme financial crisis, in really right to the very edge of the cliff. And we have been working with the university to try to partner up and work together and develop a whole new industry. Plymouth is the de facto destination for environmental studies and ecotourism. And with the brain trust at the university and the manpower that's available and the natural assets that we have, Plymouth is going to be able to attract people who are interested in environmental issues. And that is going to, in the long run, be a major asset to this community. And it's going to bring in a lot of people. And I think it will bring in industry and commerce that is related to that. So that's a couple of things that I just wanted to get out there.
And like I say, there are a lot of other instances in other departments, in recycling and other areas, that everybody is doing everything they can. If there's a better way to do the job and a cheaper way to do it, we're doing it. And we should thank each and every department head for what they've done. Bill?
A couple of questions for you. One is it relates to training police, fire, and rescue people. Is it not possible that when you take on an individual in either of those departments and we commit to training them, that you tie them to a 3-5-year commitment?
That was done 5 years ago. We started that 5 years ago.
Mr. Chair,
Steve?
That has done, we do have a contract. But however, what's happening is these towns are offering sign-on bonuses. So they'll come and they'll pay the contract. And now you just started from square one again with a new person. Yeah, they're still paying the contract, but it defeats the whole purpose. It gives the contract no teeth because other towns are just paying these officers' contracts off. So you're starting from square one all over again.
Well, I understand your dilemma in that respect, but again, I certainly look at how you commit to these people before you go to the expense of training them, only to lose them in a short period of time after they've been trained.
Mm-hmm.
Second question I have is as it relates to roads. We presumably, according to Paul, have the money to finish out the section of Highland Street that is between Broadway and Ward Hill. Are we going to be able to get that road done within this budget and the monies that we have already set aside to do that work? Last I was advised was there was some issue that the engineer was still working on as it related to some part of the curve coming down towards Broadway.
The state didn't give us the money. We came tied for first and we didn't get the money. We are fighting it. Councilman Kenny is fighting it. Senator Gaida is fighting it.
You had represented it to me that...
Yes, we have a $500,000, Bill, which I told you isn't enough to do Highland Street.
It was one,
Last I had heard, we had about $800,000.
But Bill, we never said we had 800,000 because we never had 800,000.
That's what was
We
represented.
told you what the Neil, you were there. We told you that the job was an $800,000 to $900,000 job, to which we had $500,000, and that wasn't going to matter at that time because the state was going to give us $1.1 million towards the job, and that the $500,000 would go towards offsetting the budget.
Okay. Without arguing the point, how are we going to get that money together to fix that road sooner than later?
we are working with Executive Counselor Kenny, Bob Gaida, our state representative, and we're going to have meetings with DOT. You know, and that's all we can do. And we're working on it as hard as anybody can. Because we were supposed to, again, we were supposed to get that money the next year. They put us off to now 10/25. I mean, 2025, I'm sorry.
Last point. The power line that's coming out of Canada through New Hampshire is planned to come through downtown Plymouth. I've been outspokenly opposed to that, as many others have been. I tried to contact Steve Rand here in the last several weeks and have been unsuccessful. So I'm going to suggest to you what I was going to suggest to him. Invite Governor Sununu to come to Plymouth and have him see firsthand what the routing of that power line through Plymouth will do to this business district and the economy of this town and the traffic nightmare that it will create for our residents. They can continue down the interstate if it comes to be, and they can take it to a point where they can get into a power corridor and go above ground to wherever they're going to take it. If they insist on coming down through Plymouth, I would suggest that they could bury it in the river. That won't disturb anything in the town itself. It's a line that is buriable, and they can, if it's the question of the shortest distance between A and point B, that is an alternative that could be considered.
We're working on that with a lot of other towns and attorneys and going to the, site evaluation committee and doing hearings. I mean, the people have spoken up. We are against it. We do not want it. We've incurred almost, I think,
75?
how much in legal?
Over 50.
Over 70, I think.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we're working
I know
on
we're
it.
doing that, and you've got to continue to do that.
And we
because
are.
It's not a Plymouth-only problem. But I suggest that if you get the chief executive of the state to come down and walk with you the route that they are planning and show him firsthand what the disruptive nature that would be to this economy in this community,
Okay.
you might be able to bring pressure on the site evaluation committee, which I don't see as being very sympathetic to any of the pleas that have been made to it regards this town and some other towns.
Oh,
January 31st, 6:30, Plymouth Regional High School. The town is having a special meeting. So you can bring up all those points at that meeting. This is a budgetary, but
okay.
that would be a good time to bring it up.
Bill?
And there was, actually, the site evaluation committee did walk down Main Street. And they would be more sympathetic to the concerns of the storekeeps because the governor supports the project. So, the agency heads within the SEC has already seen the problem with going down Main Street. But,
And the DES has had a problem about it going down the river, which is another whole story, so.
and Perlac, and, that would be kind of, but there is an energy corridor going down 93 that the legislature passed. So that would be a nice
I
viable
don't think
option.
we're leaving any stone unturned on fighting this.
Okay.
And we'll be there again on the 31st.
Do we have any other comments on a budget item?
Chris Woods, it's a matter of cost savings. Water and Sewer District has plans for opening a number of roads in the town for improvements, and we look forward to working with the town to pool our resources for repairs that need to be done. We know you all need to have your manner of repairs separate from us, and there is a way to save money here, absolutely, and it's not trivial.
Yep.
So we look forward to further discussions. We've got a lot of projects.
Well, I appreciate that, Chris, and thank you very much. And this is, again, this is what we're doing. Bill, is it on a budgeted item?
I'd like to ask Chris a question.
Yes.
I'm given to understand that you're looking at overall $37 million worth of...
Chair, Mr. Chair.
Bill, you can talk to Chris
I'd be happy to
after.
answer that.
We just want to have budgeted items.
The only question I had is that phased over some number of years?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Please, okay? Thank you. Thank you again, Chris. We really appreciate that, and we all have to work together. We're all in this community, and that's what we need to do.
And we will be reaching out to you.
Do we have any other questions related to a budgeted item? Seeing none, I call this meeting to end.
Mr. Chairman, for everybody here, we've had audio problems the whole time. I've been trying to fix it. We will continue to play this meeting tonight. We will use the dubbing of a YouTube. However we patch that up, we do have all the audio saved. We'll dub it in and stop playing this meeting over again tonight.
Lip sync.
It's only our luck
Okay.
that we had no audio.
Again, I want to thank all the department heads and the town staff and the select board. Thank you for a
And
good
the people
job.
that showed up tonight.